by the Tennessee Valley Authority, TVA, a giant federally owned power company, the Kingston facility was, at the time of its completion in 1954, the world's largest coal-fired power station. It burned 14,000 tons of coal a day, enough to fill 140 train cars and to power some 700,000 homes. With no traffic, Ansel reached the plant within 30 minutes. He met Henry in a parking lot. A few other Teamsters and some equipment operators showed up around the same time. In a shipping container used to store tools, the group waited for sunrise, anxious to see what they were up against. Ansel had something of an idea. Each day, the Kingston plant generated 1,000 tons of coal ash, the sooty byproduct of burning coal to produce electricity. Much of this ash ended up in an unlined pit in the ground, known as a holding pond. But Kingston's pond was not really a pond, at least not anymore. In the 1950s, TVA started flushing coal ash into a spring-fed swimming hole, and in the decades since, the ash had displaced the water and grown into a mountain 60 feet tall, covering 84 acres, and situated at the confluence of two rivers, the Emery and the Clinch. It was a precarious setup, one made more so by the dike that contained all this ash, an earthen embankment made not of concrete or steel, but of clay and bottom ash, a coarse, sand-like component of coal ash. By that December morning in 2008, the ash mound had become a topographical feature so large that marathoners ran up it for training. TVA planted grass over it, so it resembled a hill, and bulldozers sculpted neat tiers into the sides, reminiscent of those of a stepped pyramid. But the mound lacked the sturdiness that its size suggested. 2 years earlier, Ansel had helped to repair a minor breach in the dike that had sent coal ash rushing into a ditch. When he walked on the mound, the ground had jiggled like a waterbed. When he drove his truck along the dike's sloped sides, he went as slowly as possible to avoid causing another rupture. He had once told a coworker that the dike would surely fail one day. Now, it seemed that day had come. At first light, Ansel and Henry climbed into a pickup and drove up the backside of a large wooded bluff that overlooked the coal ash mound. The sight at the top would stick in Ansel's mind until the day he died. Hours earlier, as the clock approached midnight, a stiff wind blew over the rolling countryside that surrounded the Kingston fossil plant. It was the winter solstice, and in the quiet of that long night, the old farmhouses, country churches, trailer homes, and lakeside estates that dotted the hills and coves around the power station were dark and still. Christmas trees glowed in living rooms. The Year Without a Santa Claus played on TVs. Outside, the temperature hovered around 14 degrees Fahrenheit, cold enough to freeze the pipes at the McDonald's in town. Then, shortly before 1 o'clock, the north section of the coal ash dike suddenly and almost wholly collapsed. When it did, more than 1 billion gallons of coal ash slurry, about 1,500 times the volume of liquid that flows over Niagara Falls each second, broke forth. A black wave, at least 50 feet high, rushed northward with the power and violence of water punching through a dam. A backwater inlet separated the coal ash pond from a small peninsula along the Emery River. A few dozen homes sat along the water's edge. As the black wave roared ahead, shaking the earth, it overwhelmed the inlet and slammed into the peninsula. Most of the slurry, nearly 6 million tons in all, forked right around the obstruction and rushed into the Emery River, filling in a 40-foot deep channel. The rest of the ash, nearly 3 million tons, filled in 2 sloughs on either side of the peninsula, hurling fish 40 feet onto the riverbed.